Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order, 7 o'clock. Acknowledgements to First Nations. Mayor and Council wishes to acknowledge the town of Fort Smith is located within the Treaty 8 Territory. The Treaty 8 Territory also in west of traditional homelands of Salt River First Nations, Smith Landing First Nations, and the indigenous Métis people of Fort Smith. These nations have maintained stewardship over their sacred lands throughout the generations. We honor their knowledge, teachings, traditions, and the land. We are mindful that colonization hasn't been kind. We respectfully recognize our generational histories and commit to striving for unity in the spirit of truth and reconciliation. Thanks. Approval agenda.
I move the agenda be approved as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, any add-ons, questions? See none, all in favor? All in favor, question asked. Okay, with this, we have the RCMP presentation. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Today I will be presenting the monthly report for the month of August 2024. This past month, we've responded to 207 calls for service, which I believe is slightly above the monthly average we have, but nothing of concern. Regarding our first priority for the town of Fort Smith being road safety, we have received 8 reports of impaired drivers. We were able to locate and charge 2 individuals out of those 8 reports. In addition, we've done 6 proactive traffic enforcement, which led to the approximately 100 vehicles being stopped and checked. We have issued a number of tickets and charged 3 additional drivers as a result of those proactive stops. You may have heard and witnessed that we're doing more traffic enforcement. That's a result of a few committee members living between JBT School and the Lagoon complaining about the speed on that stretch. And we've had a couple near misses with pets and kids. So I've asked Protective Services to move the radar from the other end of town and put it there. And despite that, I can tell you that a number of times I've parked right behind the radar and I was still able to catch speeders. I think the fastest speeder we've stopped so far is going 92 on that stretch, which is very fast, and basically confirms the concerns that the neighbors on that stretch of the road have been complaining and reporting to us. So we will continue to do that because we're seeing a ridiculous amount of speeders. So there's a lot of tickets that have been written for speeding in town, which is a lot more than the average. In terms of community engagement, as usual, Jesse has continued to volunteer at the animal shelter. Regarding our third priority being harm reduction, we continue to check our high risk and repeat offenders. Whenever they get released, we're on them, we check them. Whenever there's a breach, we send them back. I omitted to include it in our monthly report, but we've also seized just a little under $6,000 in a weapon from a drug dealer from Edmonton. No drugs. That should have been included in here, but that's what we did during the month of August. That was in early August as well. A couple of notable occurrences for the month of August. 15 calls for service under the Mental Health Act, which is double of what we normally deal with. To my knowledge, the safe room at the hospital is still not completed. that's obviously having an impact on our operations when we have to babysit people at the hospital. And also, I think every single one of you here is aware that one of our police vehicles was rammed by a drunk driver in August, causing some minor injuries to one of us. And yeah, that person has been charged with a number of different charges. That's all I have for you. If you compare the month of August 24 to 2023, you'll see a big gap. Everyone will remember that we were evacuated during the month of August, so no big deal, no concerns here. That's all I have. I'm subject to your questions or comments.
Any questions, Councillor Gordon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm really concerned to hear that the safe room in the hospital still isn't ready. It's been something that's been on the radar. You've brought it to our attention countless times, and I'm really tempted as a final gesture from this council that our mayor actually write the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Health to address the issue of that room being completed so that the service members can actually do the job that we want you to do. Like, we want you to be out there patrolling within the public, catching the drug dealers and things like that. Not sitting in the hospital babysitting somebody who's having a mental health issue, which is something I think the Department of Health should be dealing with. So I will be probably bringing up a motion later tonight, requesting the mayor to write a letter to see that room gets, the completion of that room gets expedited.
And to their credit, whenever I've been there, they were working on it. I just have not been updated, as I know it's been pushed back a number of times. And I've been away lately. I haven't received any update as to the completion of the project. But at least the work has been initiated. I just don't know when it will be completed. We're on the right track.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you. I just want to thank you guys for tracking down on traffic or like speeders and those kinds of things, because we don't want them on the road. And I didn't catch the officer's name, but I want to give a huge shout out. We had someone in crisis at the hotel, like mental health issue this past weekend, and the officer who arrived was amazing. So kind, so like wasn't aggressive, like just totally took the time that person needed to take care and get that person to the right place, and not in cells, but to the right place. And I wish I caught that officer's name, but he was truly, really, really great when he showed up. So thanks.
Okay, Councillor Tippy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, this whole thing about speeders is a big concern. Actually, Calder Avenue has turned into a drag strip lately too. And it's kind of appalling to see what people are actually doing to vehicles, and all after going down Calder Avenue. And it's just a matter of time before something happens, especially now that it's getting dark and people have a tendency to walk on the road with dark clothes and stuff. It's kind of scary at night sometimes what's happening, and yeah, it's a real big issue in Portsmouth right now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions, concerns? Nothing? Okay, just one question. When that's fixed, now, does the RCMP still have to sit outside there, like, for all night, or can we look at some other thing there? Because it's taking away an officer from where they're supposed to be, right? Outside on the streets. Can it be fixed? Can it be workable?
Yeah, I have monthly or quarterly meetings with the hospital staff and their management, but my understanding is if someone is being formed, which means that they're being held against their will, and this has been signed or approved by a doctor or physician, then they will be placed there. And they're talking about hiring security for that purpose. But we have yet to sit down and talk about the details of it and whatnot, but this will help us greatly to have that room and have the security watch the person rather than us being there.
Okay, I do have a meeting on the 26th with health, along with leadership, so we'll bring that up also. Of getting that room done, and how can we have, not the RCMP, but some other staff sitting out there? It's just that we don't wanna lock you up sitting there, right, when you're out here, when you're needed out in the streets and that. Thanks. Any other questions? I see none. Thank you very much.
I'll be sure with the RCMP.
Have a good evening.
Approval of minutes?
I move that the minutes of the regular meeting 0824 of August 20th, 2024 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions? Councilor Griffith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not going to comment on the minutes. I don't see it serving a significant purpose at this point in time. However, I would like to rectify the record on page 5 of the regular council meetings of August 20, 2024. We did a recorded vote for a motion regarding motion 24-208, and I actually voted in as opposed to that rather than abstained. For the record, to be corrected on that particular.
Okay, so noted. Any other concerns?
Oh, sorry, it's scratchy.
No. Okay, all in favor? All in favor, President Garcia. Business arising from minutes. SAO.
Thank you, Mayor. During the previous meeting, council had requested a briefing note about possible options in response to the Anglican Church coming in as a delegation and requesting some sort of support or ideas on how they can get some relief from the increase in utility bills that was making it their continuing financial situation very untenable. So administration has pulled together some options that we could look at, as well as some examples of how it's done in similar sized communities nationally, as well as some considerations that council really should consider before they do that. Overall, though, I do recommend that we look at this in a rolled out fashion and with a cap on reductions to be able to provide some support. So everyone's had a chance to look over this. Is there any specific questions?
Councilor Ferguson.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I like the briefing note and I like what it had in it. It really gave a good, what it could look like. I'm curious to see what we're gonna come up with though with our, what the program will look like and how we're gonna set the criteria for that. And I think as long as we, are setting that strict eligibility criteria and capping it, then it would be okay to implement this as seen in, or as described in here.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Corbett.
Again, thank you for the briefing note. It was informative and actually, I think to a point to allow us to come to a conclusion that I would be prepared to make a recommendation at this point. I recommend that council approve the implementation of a utility rate reduction policy to begin in 2025 for charitable organizations, including churches, with the following conditions. 1, eligibility criteria. Establish a strict eligibility criteria to ensure that only organizations with significant community contributions qualify for the rate reduction. Organizations must apply annually. 2, cap on reductions. Introduce an annual cap on the total amount of utility rate reductions available to control the financial impact on the town's budget. 3, phased implementation. Implement the policy gradually to monitor its financial impact and make adjustments as necessary.
I'll second that.
Any other questions? Councillor Campbell.
The number, you don't wanna do the number 4 there on there? But, yeah, but for the eligibility, are we gonna have a board sit for this thing, or how do they come out from each community group? How do we know they're essential to a charitable organization and what's good for the community? Because everything that somebody's doing for the community is betterment of the community.
Basile.
What I should have put in there, and it is, rather than council approve the implementation, the development is what I meant to put, the development of that policy, so that we can bring a draft policy and say, and here's some examples of how we can set the criteria, here's some examples of how we can roll it out, how we can have a cap. And again, making sure that this is annually reviewed at the beginning to make sure the impact is not too much against the town's financial stability, but is also having that effect of improving a lot of charitable organizations within the town. So my only suggestion would be to modify that motion to make it the development of a policy that would encapsulate these core aspects.
Okay, Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll amend the motion to change the implementation to development of a policy, and also to include item 4, annual review. Conduct an annual review of the policy to assess its effectiveness and financial implications, allowing for adjustments to be made in response to changing circumstances.
I'll second the amended changes.
With it, I would assume part of this policy sort of in response to Councillor Campbell's concern is that organizations that would be eligible would have to have ownership of the property and the facility. There's not that many not-for-profit organizations that are actual landowners, so I think it would further restrict the eligibility. I don't think organizations that are renting from another landlord or something like that should be eligible for a rate reduction. So there'd be things like churches, Uncle Gabe's possibly, things like that. So organizations that have an investment in the community through infrastructure and in advancing our social and economic livelihood of the community.
Okay, thanks. Any more concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, best unanimously. Thanks.
I move that council review the briefing note update on project management RFP.
I'll second that.
Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Have we been to discussion? SAO?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just gonna give you a brief, basically I'll read this out to you, what the update is. So on brief history is on August 13th, Municipal Services Committee, motion recommended that the administration issue an RFP for project management services related to our large capital projects. Subsequently, on the 20th at the council meeting, administration presented a briefing note to council outlining the risk to the town in terms of both local and our legal and project costs. The briefing note also detailed which procedures were followed, the respective roles of council and administration, and clarified that the project management services for these projects had already been approved. Council's stated purpose was to ensure that other local project management providers had the opportunity to bid on these projects. As a response, we released an RFP seeking qualified project managers. The original date was extended due to a request by an interested applicant. It closed this past Friday the 13th, and we received one submission. The applicant we received is not a local provider, but is a global engineering and professional services firm. The proposed rate schedule they provided is quite comprehensive with quite a large listing of services and skill sets. However, the quoted costs for these services are on average about 50% higher than our previous quoted rates that we had, that were under the approved project management costs. As a result, all of our projects are now currently without a project manager, as are all of the the three tendered and awarded projects that we have right now. The SAO administration is working diligently to ensure that timelines are not impacted by the town's actions, because that could have very negative consequences on the town. Further discussion on that matter could be done in camera. I want to ensure that there's no delays attributed to the town's actions. We are doing the best we can to advance the other projects, the community plan, the other sort of soft projects we have ongoing, ensuring that they meet their respective timelines, deliverables, and our funding requirements, so that we don't lose all the funding that we have in a lot of the projects that are also ongoing. That's my update.
Good, thanks. Any other concerns? Councilor Kurdett.
Thank you, SAO. I guess the short story is we are now faced with having to do all our project management services in-house. And the local contractor is no longer recipient of town benefits, so, yeah. I think we all need to give our heads a bit of a shake on this one.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions? Seeing none? This is a vote, this one?
Just for information.
Oh, okay. A declaration of financial interest. I see none. Councilor's business.
I move that Protective Services Standing Committee meeting minutes from September 3rd, 2024 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions? I see none, all in favor? All in favor, Weston Mass.
I move that Adam Bath be reappointed to the Sustainable Development Advisory Board for the 2-year term ending December 31st, 2026.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Weston Mass.
I'll move that administration complete a briefing note to consider possible avenues to provide reduced service rates for not-for-profit societies.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor? Question, Councilor Kissinger.
Did we not discuss that and said that it was the development of a thing?
Okay, SAO,
I was just really on the ball then. I just had, the briefing note came out of a committee meeting and I just had it ready for this council because I know we're running out of time and I wanted to get it on the table.
any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous.
I move that the Corporate Services Standing Committee minutes from September 3rd, 2024 be adopted as presented.
I'll second that.
Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously.
I move that the mayor and council ask administration to follow through on the potential use of the development permits and other bylaws regarding safety issues in relation to the berms created by Aurora College HEO program.
I'll second.
Any questions? Councilor Devil, or Councilor Devil?
Yeah, I'd like to know what's happening with this. We should be, I still see them putting that berm up and everything. And to me, it's an eyesore. Coming into the community of Fort Smith, we have great big sand berms, no matter what. It's gonna grow weeds, it's gonna grow everything on there. We'll never cut the grass. And it's just an eyesore. And here I go back to Hay River. You pull into Hay River, they got a nice sign, everything, no berms are up, all the grass cut, looks awesome. And here we pull in on the side of the highway, great big 12-foot berms and 6-foot berms along there. My question, did bylaw check into if they got a development permit for the berms or the fence or whatever they're putting up? Thanks.
SAO,
I have requested bylaw to look at this matter and develop a briefing note.
Councilor Corbett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I support the position Councilor Campbell has on this. It's an eyesore. But I think the college should also be called out on their degradation of agricultural product. I drive by it every day pretty well, and I was sitting there noticing the small berm was about 2 to 3 foot high, was beautiful black soil. And they've got piles of black soil pushed all over the place back there. Now they've topped it with sand. If they were in Alberta, they would be charged for degradation of agricultural product, because in Alberta, you're required, if you're doing construction of things, if there's topsoil, you're required to remove that topsoil and store it properly and things like this. Here we are talking about wanting to grow agriculture in our community, wanting to look at developing the fire breaks for agricultural purposes. And here we have the college burying black dirt, great black dirt, under sand, basically rendering it useless. Like, does nobody over there really think about what they're doing when they start planning things like this? And I would almost be, and I'm not going to make you write another letter, Mr. Mayor, but I think we need to talk to the college and bring it up as a point of concern. I know the community leadership is going to be talking to the Board of Governors, and I think this is something that the Board of Governors should be made aware of. And they should actually be tearing that berm down and trying to salvage as much of that black dirt as they can back. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's disgraceful what they've done there.
Yeah, thanks. Councilor Bishop.
Yes, thank you. I do drive by that every day and notice the black dirt, but I think it was two or 3 weeks ago, Councillor Campbell asked that bylaw go and see and put a stop work permit. He had asked for that. I guess we went on the ball with that one, so, yeah, I agree with Councillor Cooper, it is an eyesore. And I agree, also the black dirt, I drove by it every day, and that's what I thought, like, why are they covering all that black dirt when it could be used for other things? I think we need to talk to the college tomorrow, first thing in the morning. Get the mayor to call the president or someone and say he has a concern to start that process right away anyway. Thank you.
Thanks. Councilor Campbell.
Can we get bylaw to issue a stop work order now till we get the briefing note done? And while Mayor Daniels has a discussion with the president, because they're still going ahead and it's all that extra work that has to be removed, or else just stop now and then see what happens. Thanks.
Okay, so noted. Councilor Ferguson.
I think are we looking for a recommendation then? So
Yeah.
is that something that we can ask our administration? Can they, like, a stop work order or a bylaw infraction of some kind? That they can stop work until whatever their work plan is.
Development permit.
Yeah, development permit, work plan, whatever that looks like for that project they have going on there. I didn't even think about the degradation of agriculture or anything like that. That wasn't even on my radar, so. Can we ask our administration if that's a possibility?
Okay, SAO.
Again, I'm gonna have to talk to the bylaw about it, because as far as I understand, that is their property. So what they're doing on their property, and it's an AGO training that they're doing, so it's whether or not we can go in and say you can't move your dirt around. I don't know if we have the power to do that on someone else's property. Agricultural or otherwise, it is their property, and they are doing a training ground for it. So I'm not sure of the powers that be on that one. I did reach out to bylaw, or to my protective services. I did ask them to look into the matter, and I haven't heard back to them. But I mean, I can look into that, but I cannot go in and on someone else's property and tell them they can't move their dirt around.
Okay, thanks. Any more? Councilor Campbell.
Yeah, but if somebody digging a hole for a basement gets started without a development permit, this is basically the same thing where they're putting the fence up. It's a fence. It's a detour. It's something extra beside doing their HEO training. They could go build a berm along the middle of the road or something. Here they're putting it up as an eyesore to the community of Fort Smith. We got to put a stop work order on them, and also have Fred making a recommendation. You made a recommendation, right?
Kind of.
I'm making a recommendation. We put a stop work order on them, and then till we sort it out, and then have Fred phone president or somebody in charge of all that, and start discussions on it. And let's get the leaders involved. All the leaders I talked to are in favor of what we're doing here. Thanks.
Okay, Councilor Ferguson.
Thanks. So I think, so if we want to make a recommendation, it has to do with structural development, right? So we're saying it's not them just moving around in a training exercise on their property, which is totally within their scope of work. This is actually they're they're developing a permanent structure, i.e. berm, to prevent access to their property, which they may need a development permit for because it's not, they're putting up a fence.
Yeah.
They're putting up a structure. It's not gonna get moved. It's gonna be, in their eyes, permanent because it's gonna be a structural thing. Not that they're training to build that berm, because they're building other berms. I've seen it, the other movement of on their land, that's there. But this particular thing that runs along their property line to the highway is a structural development of a fence. And that's what I think what we're talking about.
Okay, any other questions? SAO,
What I would suggest if council wants to make a recommendation is that we have bylaw, look into this matter tomorrow, that you direct administration to have bylaw investigate the matter tomorrow and determine if it is something that is covered within our bylaws, not that you issue a stop, you don't have that authority if it's not within our bylaws. And until we know more about that, so I'm gonna ask for direction perhaps to say, can you do that immediately? With my director of protective services being away right now, I put it out there and was waiting for him to get back, but I could definitely ask my bylaw to go take a look.
I still make that recommendation then.
Marty?
okay, Councillor, Privet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the crux of this whole situation is, it is an intentional barrier being constructed. If somebody was to be putting up a fence on their property or any other industrial site doing a similar type of earthworks, basically is what it is, I'm almost certain we would be requiring them to take out a development permit. And I think just to have them follow up, and like, it's not like yes, they are training, but they're training with a purpose to construct a permanent piece of infrastructure on land. And I think that if anybody else was to do that, yeah, we would require them to have a development permit, so.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Thanks. So I've made a recommendation, so I think there needs to be a seconder. I know, but this is your direction to go, we'll go tomorrow.
Tomorrow, put a stop work on it, okay. I'll second that. Okay, second.
No, to clarify, the recommendation is to direct administration to ask bylaw to look at our policies and to see if there's anything there enforceable relative to our policies. Tomorrow. And if so, then whatever's in the bylaw will then proceed how they will stop that or prevent that, or what they can do with that, right?
And I'm not trying to administration, but when you said it's on their land, but they're making it like Councilor Couvret and everybody said here, they're making a permanent barrier down the property line that they think is their land. It's everybody has to follow our town procedures and bylaws, excavation, everything. They're doing training there, that's a training site, but do it in the middle of the train, so not down the middle. Where they're putting up that thing that hazard to the public, ugly looking, disgrace to the town of Fort Smith. And that, but I was second.
I'm just, yeah, that's what we're getting to, okay?
Okay, can I make your recommendation?
I did, he seconded.
Okay, any more comments? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously.
I move that the Community Services Standing Committee minutes from September 12, 2024 be adopted as presented.
I'll second.
Any comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously.
I move that Ally McDonald be reappointed to the Community Services Advisory Board for a 2-year term ending
Oh.
December 31st,
2026.
2026.
in 2026.
I'll second that.
2 years.
2 years.
Okay, any more questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Best unanimous.
I move that the mayor and council by motion award WMC, the Town of Fort Smith Organizational Review Project in the amount of $114,856.25, GST included.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Councilor Devil?
What does this Town of Fort Smith Organizational Review Project consist of?
You're on the review committee, you speak to it, please.
Councilor Corbett?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. This is the project that Mayor and Council originally passed a motion back, I believe, in 2023 to undertake a organizational review. It was also referred to as a core municipal services review. So basically what we're asking is for a contractor to come in and review the organizational structure of the town, look at the level of services that are required by legislation versus those that are in place because we're good leaders and we feel that these services are required by the public and that the public is asked for them. So basically, he coming in and to provide advice how we can ensure that the resources that we have available to us, both human resources, financial resources, and assets are most effectively used in the delivery of services to our citizens.
It was also called a functional review. You guys are.
Answers your question?
Okay, do we have a mover or seconder?
We do.
Okay, I was gonna say question, what is the time period we're looking at here of this taking place?
I'm just trying to remember the timeline proposed, but we're late now because it's gonna be the end of September, so
Maybe Mike.
sorry
SAO,
about that. I think it's in the late winter is when it's wrapping up. The original timeline proposed was September, but we're now at the end of September. So I think it would be wrapping up by March 31st.
okay. Okay, all in favor? All in favor, best unanimous.
Move that mayor and council approve the 2024 Housing Accelerator Funding application to CHMC to support the meeting of long and short-term housing goals for the town of Fort Smith.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Councilor Ferguson?
Not really a question, just a good job on getting it in on time and getting it there, and hopefully we're approved this time because we weren't successful last time, so let's keep our fingers crossed this happens for us.
Okay, any more comments? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, best unanimous.
I move that municipal services standing committee minutes from September 12th, 2024 be adopted as presented.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Best unanimous.
I'll move that the council determines that the pool assessment project is a priority to undertake at this time, and therefore allocate the community art initiative capital funding to assessment costs.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Best unanimous.
I move that the Human Resources Committee meet with senior administrative officer to develop a 6-month work plan.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions? See none, all in favor? Pass the
I'll move that committee meetings be foregone for the month of October and only have the regular meeting of council.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Councillor Corbett,
Yeah, to be quite honest, I'm not totally in favor of this. I think there's business that could be conducted. If nothing else, try and get one additional bylaw passed before the end of our term. At least try and do first and second reading during committee meetings and third reading at our last council meeting, but
You cannot do readings during a committee meeting. Readings.
okay, any more
I should have
concerns?
said yes, that's correct.
I don't see any more concerns, all in favor? All in favor? All in favor? You're good? Okay,
You have to call the other things, it's the,
Okay,
two in favor, then you.
okay, abstained? Against? Okay, 2 against, 3, 4, passed. Thanks.
It's not passed.
Hey, well, you guys voted for it. You voted against it.
Which means that
What?
we're having committee meetings in October.
Yeah.
Okay.
Passed.
It's defeated,
Huh?
it's defeated.
How you defeat it? You voted for it. 3 of you voted against it.
But it's defeated.
Okay, it was defeated. Hey, next.
What?
Okay. I think we have to rehash again. It's up.
Okay, bylaws.
Okay. So I move that the first reading of the council code of ethics and conflict be given the first reading. Whereas a bylaw of the council of the municipal corporation of the town of Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories to establish a code of ethics and conduct for members of council. Whereas pursuant to section 35(1) of the Cities, Towns and Villages Act, S, N, W, T, comma, 2003, comma, C, 22, semicolon, at the council may make rules respecting the behavior of council members.
I'll second.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously. Okay, next.
First reading, that
I move that we give second reading to the council code of ethics and conduct, bylaw 1059, only.
I'll second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? All in favor, pass unanimously. Okay, mayor and council board representation.
Mr. Mayor, really have anything to report for board stuff, but I would like to pass on my condolences to the Whitford family. Tony Whitford was a lifelong resident of the territories and then spent many years living here in Fort Smith and served as MLA. He served with the NWT in many capacities and unique distinction of being the only person to have served the Northwest Territories Legislative Assembly as an elected member, as a cabinet minister, as a speaker, as a sergeant of arms. Mr. Whitford also served as both deputy commissioner and commissioner of the NWT. Mr. Whitford received the Order of the NWT in 2016 for his years of dedicated service, and suddenly a loss to not only the NWT but Fort Smith. And pass my condolences on to the family. Thank you.
I also pass my condolences on to all those suffering from our grieving loved ones at this time. We, in the Human Resources Committee, we again tried to have another interview for the candidate for corporate services. Again, that person didn't come, so that has gone back out, and we're still awaiting a candidate for that position to redo that process. And I just want to say I love seeing that the fair, when the Ferris wheel went up today on my way when I'm driving here, I got totally excited about it, felt like a kid, so I can't wait to go check that out this weekend. So anyone speeding around, slow down, because there's gonna be tons of kids running across that McDougal to come and see that event. So if you're out and about, stop and slow down, right? And have fun.
Thank you for that. Okay, the NWTAC will be meeting with Minister McKay in first week of October. And what else? Well, I was gonna bring up, we still have another 3 years, we still have never completed our cemetery fences. And I feel that's a big red dot or whatever that we, as a council, we could not complete a simple project like that. And the rest of it, potholes. Before it freezes, we got so many potholes in the community at every corner and everything that need to be repaired before it freezes. And one more, the pool gen set, or the community hall, the generator set. We've got to find out what's happening with that, because that's been ongoing. Don't know what's happening. Thanks.
I thank Councillor Tucky for the tribute to Mr. Whitford, respected NWT resident and favorite of Fort Smith. Also extend my condolences to families that are grieving lost ones over the last little while. As I mentioned earlier during the presentation, I would like to bring forward a motion to request the mayor to write the ministers of health and the ministers of justice in regards to the timely completion of the safe room at the Fort Smith Health Center, that this be given utmost urgency.
I'll second that if you need it.
Is that a motion? Okay, seconder.
I did.
Okay, all in favor? All in favor, pass, yes.
No.
No? Okay, what against? Abstained? Perhaps? Okay. Okay, what is this?
This is sort of one of our last sittings before for the elections, and I would encourage people that want to be quite blunt, see good leadership at our community level We need to get out, we need to vote, we need to elect people that are going to lead our community. We're facing, I don't want to sound like Mr. Dredd or anything like that, but financially, the times ahead of us are going to be tough as a community. The GNWT has bluntly come and approached the community, and they have no empathy for what they're doing, the $150 million rollback that they did, which affected, part of that was 17 jobs being removed from our community. The community leadership talked to the premier, and there was no empathy from him or the rest of the delegates that came with him. To them, it's business. We have to reduce government expenditures, and I'll be quite blunt in my assessment, is the bureaucrats that are running the government in Yellowknife are not going to let them make any major cuts to their bread and butter sitting in Yellowknife. They've got their empires that they're trying to protect. You look at it, there was a report out last year where the Union of Northern Workers statistically demonstrated that the GNWT increased senior management by 8%. Yet here they are scrambling around in Fort Smith and other small communities, taking away things, like 17 jobs here. Last week during the committee thing, they were saying, well, yeah, we'll take funding away from the smaller communities and give it to the larger communities. Where are the larger communities? You look at the 3 of the 4 largest communities in the NWT are governed by 6 or 10 of the MLAs. Yellowknife, which is represented by 6 MLAs, Hay River and Inuvik, which are represented by another 4. That is the majority of the legislative vote. And we've not seen any demonstrated cuts in any of those communities yet. Fort Smith, now they're talking places like Fort Yard. Oh, they're not spending all their money, so we're just going to take it away. So, yeah, I think there's dire times ahead of us, and we need strong leadership coming from this council chamber saying enough is enough. The community has recently agreed that all 4 community leaders will fight to protect our community interests, and I think they're doing a good job of it. And part of that fight comes from this council chamber. And so when you go out on October 21st, make sure we're putting people in there that are going to fight for our community and protect the interests of our community and the citizens that we serve.
Ooh, I'm fired up now.
Thank you. I do also want to thank Councillor Tucky for the tribute he gave to Mr. Whitford, and I pass on my condolences to his family. He was an exceptional northerner. Thank you. And also, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your persistence in saying, I want that carnival here. It's here.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'd like to thank Councillor Tucky for his, what he said about Mr. Whitford. And I'd like to send my deepest condolences to the Whitford family and the friends of the Whitford family. Now, yeah, the circus is in town, and I didn't have anything to do with it. I argued them for probably about a good 8 months trying to bring them here, and they fought with me all the way. So then I changed games there, and I got our director, Emily, to do it. And by George, she got him here. So sometimes it takes a lady to go first, right? So, instead of a man, and that was an awesome job. So I believe she's doing something else for August, I believe, of next year. But that day will come. Yeah, there's money of stuff, that are ahead of us, big ticket items. And then hard times are gonna be coming because both governments don't have the money anymore, the feds nor the territorial government. So we're gonna have to really think strategically how we could all help ourselves on moving forward. There's gonna be touchy times, sure, what projects we can do in that. But, for me, if I get in or whatever, we're just gonna continue along. And I believe, you have two people running for mayor. And I believe they both want the same thing, is to make this town build, to go ahead and make it a beautiful town that it is. And, it's a hard job. It's not an easy job, but it takes people to get in there and make changes. Because you're sitting out there and you're talking, you're not doing nothing to the table. Well, you're not helping, right? It takes all of us to make this community. Everyone has to help. It don't matter what gender, race, whatever it is. It's our community. This is our family. So having said that, I was the first First Nation ever ran in politics for mayor. And I certainly don't want to see it what happened last time. That was only aimed at me. That was aimed at all Aboriginal people. And I thought we were well beyond that. I just want to keep it nice and clean this time and have a good run, and let's continue working for our community. So thanks a lot. And like I said, there's lots of work ahead of us. There's that water line to Smith Landing. That's going to benefit the community of Fort Smith, because with that pipeline in there, then we get to use it on Carl Drive's people and bring more people on the water line, and try to get rid of that water truck for smaller projects. It's costing too much, and what the future is time to make that bend in the road and get these done and get the people on water. So anyway, there's lots there, and yes, thank you, and thank you for your 3 years support. I've enjoyed it, and yes, so thanks. Bye. What else? What else is there? Food is.
I move that Councillor Tucky and Councillor Campbell be excused from the Community Services Standing Committee meeting on September 12th, 2024.
I'll second it.
Any questions? See none, all in favor? That's unanimous.
I'll move that Councillor Tucky and Councillor Campbell be excused from the Municipal Services Standing Committee meeting on September 12th, 2024.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous.
I'll move that Councillor Bolio and Deputy Mayor Cole be excused from the regular council meeting of September 17th, 2024.
I'll second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous.
The date of the next meetings, is it the 8th?
Attendance.
15,
8th,
15.
15, and what?
Just the 15th.
23rd?
No.
Do you want to do
15th.
Well, then how are we gonna have three? Oh, it's October 1st, 5th, okay, so 1st, 8th, and 15th?
15th on
15th only.
No,
No, we don't,
No, we voted in favor.
we voted to not have meetings, you guys voted against it, so we have 3 meetings now in October.
No,
oh,
Yes?
no.
so if you read the motion is that,
We forego those meetings.
We forego those meetings, and so we
you
voted
voted
to
in
forego,
favor, before voting.
yeah, and then you guys voted against it, so now we're having the meetings.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, that's
Well,
what
that's
happened.
what,
The motion was to forego.
yeah, we
Or
voted,
no
Two votes
means
to
not to
forego,
have.
not
Yeah,
not to have
they,
meetings.
yeah.
we didn't want
that's
meetings,
what you guys voted in favor of.
correct?
Excuse
Yeah,
me,
we
but
said
three
we wanted
votes
the meetings.
voted against.
No,
Yes,
You
you,
and
and
you
him.
voted against,
There was just 2 of us
Yes,
voted
yes.
against it.
and Kevin.
Yeah, just 2 of them.
When they're not, it's like you voted in favor.
Yeah, no,
No,
Oh, okay, then
No.
it's defeated.
Well,
that's what we said, it's
reported
defeated.
as passed.
no, that's what I'm saying.
I said what?
So thanks to you guys, we have 3 more meetings.
Oh, did I thought they were these?
That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
I thought, I was blind, I voted, I disagreed with it, even when they came up
Yeah,
with stuff.
So, okay, so the date of the next meetings is, yes, so we have, community services and protective services on October first. We have municipal services and, what's the other one? Community on October 8th. And then we have, the regular meeting of council on October 15th.
Thank you.
That's all they have.
Okay, adjournment.
I move that we adjourn the meeting at 8:06 PM.
I will second that.
Any questions? See none, all in favor? All in favor, Mr. Nestle?
And can you sign this before you go in?
I